Namaste everyone. So I thought for today's video I'd introduce some spinal enlivening, which are things you can do just to open up the vertebrae, the joints between the spine. A lot of information goes through here, or the way that we communicate from our brain to the rest of our body and get things moving goes down that highway. So this is one that I do quite a bit on, especially if I've been seated for a long time, if I'm feeling my lower back, or just generally before a Qigong practice. These ones feel quite good to start my practices off with. So for the first one, there's different ways we can open the spine to the front and back. We can open it sideways, and we can also just increase the space between the vertebrae of the spine. So we'll start with spinal enlivening, spinal cord breathing. This is one that we've done before, and again you're starting imagining from the tailbone, really opening the front of the chest, imagining the front of body opening, and then this way the vertebrae stretching around the back of the body. And for this one you can breathe in if you want to accentuate opening the chest, or out here, or you can breathe in at this point to feel that expansion between the vertebrae, and breathe out to release at this point. So give them both a try, find what feels good. Each day and each practice will be different. Always imagining a kind of line of magnetic opposition between the tailbone and the crown of the head, just to bring some awareness and integrity right the way through the spine. You can also bring the elbows to touch in front of you. For the next one, to open the side spine, you can imagine being between two panes of glass. Okay, so this is going to open what they call the reptilian spine. Imagine your lower body is set in concrete, and we're going to take the hands to the hips and just gently sway from side to side. Imagine that movement starting at the tailbone, and you're just moving side to side between those two panes of glass, and just feeling a loosening and opening of them vertebrae in the spine, keeping a nice lift in the crown, dropping them shoulders down, taking some nice deep breaths. And this is even one you can do where you can bend forward, and you can do it going sideways, leaning forward. Again, imagining that opposition between the tailbone and the crown, just opening. Because this one you can take your stance wider, and it can help open up your hips, as mine have just clicked at the same time. Again, just opening up that spinal vertebrae. It's also been called dog wags its tail, those kinds of movements. And then we can do one to kind of try and increase the spaciousness, to feel a bit more space between each of the vertebrae, especially if it's feeling quite compact. If you've been sitting on a bike for a long time, you've been seated on an office chair, you've been commuting. So for this one, we're just going to imagine picking cherries. So literally anchoring the hip down while you lift that one up, imagining an opposition line. And you can just visualize from the tailbone to the crown are pushing away from each other. And this one is just going to increase the stretch between each of the vertebrae. This is one that I do quite often when I'm seated. I actually set timers now for when I've been sat working behind an office desk for a while, using a laptop. If I've spent a lot of time seated, I'll give myself a minute or two of this when I'm having a break, making a cup of tea, give myself a bit of a stretch. Another one that you can do is it's like elevators in front of you. So you can imagine starting from your core, imagine them both in front of you, and one hand is facing upright, one palm's facing the floor, and you're imagining them two lifts spreading apart. And you can do this one with the breath. So you're pushing it, you're breathing out as they push away, and then you breathe in and breathe out. Arms aren't too so far that they're stretched. There's a slight bend and softness in the elbows. And imagine it going up and down the central column, so that imagine your arms are just the width of like either side of your spine. You could even imagine like a line within your spine. Imagine your palms are being mirrored, literally pushing through your spine, opening it up. You can imagine pushing fluids through it, loosening up the joints, a bit like oiling it maybe. Keeping a nice lift in the crown of your head. So hopefully that one has enlivened your spine a bit. You can also twist the spine like we've already done with knocking on the door of life to bring in a bit of a spiral to it. And you can do them any time of day. Some of them might be nicer in the morning or evening to get things going, and find what feels good. Let me know how that's gone. And another day of Qigong complete.